Good morning, class 6. Today I'm going to do a lesson with you, The Storm. This story is about a horse, how he saved himself during a storm. Okay, and this storm came when he was on the ship. He was on board on a ship. Now, this is a very interesting story, and it is written by Walter Farley. He was an American writer and he loved horses. Walter Farley, he loved horses and wrote stories about them for children. He learnt all about horses from his uncle, who was a professional horseman. And he wrote several books, of which The Black Stallion was the most famous. Now, the introduction to the story, a young boy, Alec, he's sailing home to America after visiting his uncle in India. After visiting his uncle in India, he's going back to America. He's sailing means he's going on a ship and he's going back from India to America. When the ship called the Drake, the name of the ship is the Drake, stops at a port and a group of men drag a beautiful, untamed black stallion on board. Now, this ship on which he's traveling is called the Drake, and on this ship, when it stops at a port, some young men they drag a beautiful, untamed black stallion on board. Now, port is, all of you know what is a port? It is a town or city with a harbor where ships load or unload. Port is a town or city with a harbor where the ships they load or unload, and over there on the port, when this ship stops, the young men they bring this stallion on board. Stallion is, of course, a black stallion means a horse, and board is get on or into a shipped aircraft or other vehicles. What is board? Board, the meaning of board is get onto an aircraft or ship. That is called board. Like you, when you go by air, don't you hear that boarding has started, please line up, and now the boarding has been stopped, has been closed. So boarding means when you get into the aircraft or a ship. Now, the meaning of stallion is it is an adult male horse. Now, Alec, he loves horses and is captivated by this animal that won't let anyone come near him. Alec, he loves horses and he's captivated by this animal, because captivated means that he's really fascinated by this animal. This animal is really beautiful, but it won't let anyone come near him. In a bid to befriend the horse, in a bid to befriend the horse, which is called the Black. Now, the name of the horse is Black. Alec starts leaving lumps of sugar at its stall every night. Now, stall is a small covered area in which an animal is kept. And in a bid means make an effort or attempt. In a bid, bid means make an effort or attempt, and befriend means act as or become a friend. Act as or become a friend. So now he wants to become a friend of this horse. So what he does, he leaves lumps of sugar at his stall. Stall is the area where the horse stays. One night a terrible calamity strikes the ship. And one night a terrible calamity strikes the ship. What happens to the boy and the horse? Now, this was the introduction to the lesson, and now we will read that what happens to the boy and the horse. And one night a terrible calamity strikes the ship. Calamity is a great misfortune or disaster. A great misfortune or disaster. Misfortune means bad luck. Now, the night was hot and still. The night, it was hot and still. Now we have started the lesson. I just gave you the introduction of the lesson, and I told you about the author also, Walter Farley, who loves horses. Now we are starting the lesson, and the first paragraph is the night was hot and still. Heavy clouds blacked out the stars, and long streaks of lightning raced through the sky. That means the storm was about to start. The night was hot and still. Heavy clouds blacked out the stars. That means the stars they were blocked by heavy clouds, and long streaks of lightning raced through the sky. Streaks of lightning is a long thin line or mark. So streaks of lightning they were racing through the sky. The Black had his head out of the window. This horse, he had his head out of the window and his ears pricked forward, his nostrils quivering. His nostrils were quivering. Quivering means trembling or shaking. His black mane flowing. Mane is the growth of long hair on the neck of a horse. Okay, so his nostrils, they were trembling, and his black mane was flowing. Alec could not turn his eyes away. He could not believe such a perfect animal existed. He was really fascinated by this horse's beauty. Just then the black turned, whistled as he saw the boy, and again faced the water. Now, Alec felt elated. Alec really felt very elated. Elated means he felt extremely happy. It was the first time that the stallion hadn't drawn back into the stall at the sight of him. That means usually whenever Alec used to go near him, he used to draw back. He never used to allow Alec to come near him. But it was the first time that he did not draw back or move away from Alec. Moving closer, he held out the sugar in the palm of his hand to the stallion. The black turned and whistled softly this time. Now he had this lump of sugar, and he went towards the stallion and he offered the lump of sugar which was on his palm. And this time the horse, he whistled very sweetly and softly. Alex stood his ground. Stood his ground means Alex stood over there, remained where he was. He did not move from there. Alex stood his ground. No one had been this close to the stallion since he came on board. So he says, no one had been so close to the stallion since he came on board. But Alec knew that it would not be wise to get any closer, and so placed the sugar on the sill. So he knew that he should not go very close to the horse. It can be dangerous. Okay, he can be dangerous. So he just kept it on the sill. Sill is a shelf or slab of stone. Okay, sill is a shelf or slab of stone. The black looked at it, then back at the boy. Slowly he moved over and began to eat the sugar. Alec watched him for a moment, satisfied. Then as the rain began to fall, he went back to his cabin. Okay, then the rain started, and at this time, at this moment, he went back to his cabin. Alec went back to his cabin. In the middle of the night, the drake lurched crazily. Drake is the name of the ship. So in the middle of the night, the drake lurched crazily. Lurched is made sudden uncontrolled movements forward and backward or from side to side. If any one of you has traveled by ship, you must be knowing how it is when the storm starts or when it is becoming a bit unstable, the ship. So it was lurching from side to side. It was lurching very crazily, awakening. Now Alec, who was thrown onto the floor. In the middle of the night, the drake lurched crazily, awakening Alec, who was thrown onto the floor. He was thrown onto the floor because of the instability of the ship. Outside there were deafening rolls of thunder. Thunder and lightning was there, and deafening means it was very loud. His first storm at sea. He pushed the light switch, it was dead, and the light has gone. The light had also gone. He tried to switch on the light, and the light had gone. A flash of lightning illuminated the cabin. A flash of lightning from outside, the lightning, it just came inside, flash, it just came for a second, and it illuminated, it shone inside the cabin. The top of his desk had been swept clear, and the floor was covered with broken glass. Grabbing a pocket knife, which was a parting gift from his uncle, he strapped on his life jacket, hoping that he wouldn't need either. So he took out his life jacket and he tried to put it on because he knew that it was becoming dangerous. The ship was going from side to side, things were breaking. He had been thrown off from the bed onto the floor in his cabin. There was no light also. Opening the door, he staggered to the deck and hung on to the rail. He staggered to the deck. He moved towards the deck and he just moved towards the rail of the cabin. The shouts of Captain Watson and the crew could be heard faintly above the roar of the winds. He could hear the shouts of the captain, he must be giving instructions, okay. And above the roar of the wind, he could hear this from a distance. Huge waves swept from one end of the drake to the other, and hysterical passengers crowded into the corridor. Everyone was very scared, and they were getting very hysterical, all the passengers, and they were crowding onto the corridor of the ship. Alec was genuinely scared now. Never had he seen a storm like this. He also was feeling very, very scared now, and he had never seen such a storm in his life. Hysterical means in a state in which you are full of fear, anger, and excitement. Okay, so he was also feeling very, very scared at this time. For what seemed hours, the drake fought wave after wave. For what seemed hours means that the time seemed to go very slowly, and the drake, the ship, it fought wave after wave. Big waves were coming and hitting the ship, trembling, turning on its side, yet somehow managing to stay afloat. It was trying to stay afloat, and it was trying to be stable on the water. The storm began to subside. Subside means it began to slow down a little, and Alec felt new hope. But then there was a sharp crack and the ship shook. Alec was thrown flat on his face, which felt hot and sticky with blood. So there was such a big movement, and what happened? He thought that the storm is going to subside. And suddenly, what happened? He heard the cracking, and suddenly he was thrown on the floor. And when he was thrown on the floor, it was with great force, and then something hot and sticky came out. And what was that? Fresh blood. Then he became conscious of screaming passengers climbing, crawling, and stepping over him. Meanwhile, the drake had become still. Its engine had gone dead. That means the ship had just stopped in the middle of the sea. The engine had gone dead. People were becoming hysterical to save their lives. They were just going on top of Alec and going towards the railing of the ship. Struggling, Alec pushed himself to his feet and made his way along the deck. And he tried to struggle to his feet. Okay, he was becoming unconscious, and he moved towards the deck of the ship. He started to move towards the deck of the ship. Now, you know, deck is the open area in the ship. Yes, deck is the open area in this ship. He started to move towards that area. His startled eyes took in the scene about him. His startled eyes took in the scene about him. Took in the scene means he was seeing what a frightening scene it was. People were trying to save their lives. The drake, struck by lightning, seemed almost cut in half. They were sinking. So, what happened? The drake, the ship, had been struck by lightning. Lightning had hit the ship, and the ship had been cut into two pieces, and it was sinking in the water. So, it was really, children, a very scary and a very frightening scene. The crew were manning the lifeboats. The crew are the people over there. So they were manning the lifeboats, operating. Manning means that they were operating. Crew is a group of people who work on, okay, a ship or aircraft. All the group of people, the group of people who work on a ship or aircraft. And they were manning, they were operating the lifeboats. And Captain Watson was shouting directions. One boat was being lowered into the water, and a large wave caught it and turned the boat and its occupants into the sea. The second lifeboat was being filled, and Alec waited his turn, but when it came, the boat had reached its quota. One boat was already filled, and in the second boat, when Alec's turn came, it had already reached its quota. Quota is the limit or the number of people allowed in the boat. Okay, so children, we are going to do this lesson till this paragraph, and this is the first part of the lesson. The remaining part I'll be sending in the next video. Please go through it very slowly, and the meanings which I've dictated, try to understand them. Okay, goodbye and stay safe.